And so, on June the 18th, 1975, the great trek began. Families who had somehow saved their homes from drought and earlier moves dismantled them. Precious possessions were packed and stowed away for a journey that would take them from everything they had ever known and into a future far removed, at which they could only guess. Infants and invalids were carried onto waiting lorries. Papers were checked as whole families moved together. The entire nation's transport resources had been mobilized and others borrowed from abroad. 16 landing strips had been built for 24 huge transport planes, while over 600 lorries took on the rest. In lorry after lorry, covering hundreds of miles, the new farmers moved south. Within days, the first arrivals reached Kurtimwari, and local people turned out by the score to greet and welcome them to a new life far removed from the old. Even the mud and rain which greeted them also must have seemed a godsend after the horrors of drought. Neat rows of tents stood ready and waiting as temporary accommodation for those whose houses had been destroyed back in the north. While those who had saved theirs set to quickly rebuilding them in the new settlement. Meanwhile, the future fishermen were also on the move, southwards and east to their new homes along the coast. Day after day, the huge convoys rolled, carrying their precious cargo to safety and a new life. The first arrivals in Adale. Wherever the refugees went, they met with the same warm reception. Here too, as in Kurtimwari, houses had to be built to accommodate the new settlers. And no sooner had they settled in than school started for the children. For those of the farmers in the open air, while here in the fishing town of Brawe, their brothers found a schoolroom already built and waiting. Nor were the children the only ones to take lessons. Most of these men had never even seen the sea, yet their new life demanded not only that they see it, but learn to enter, swim, and survive in it as well. Retraining began for the farmers also. At both Kurtimwari and Dujuma, the nomads were allocated 18,000 hectares of undeveloped land, which, under expert guidance, they would be expected to make productive within 2 years. For the fishermen, a first necessity was to learn of the different species of fish off Somalia's coast, of their shape, size, and value. While the farmers learned of the best crop strains to plant in a given soil. And then there were their tools, the nets, boats, and outboard motors of the fishermen. Without knowledge and care of these, however would they survive? Fishing is one thing, showing instant returns. Farming is different, needing more time and repaying its errors far more harshly. Here, patience and great thoroughness in preparing their land were the lessons the new farmers had to learn. And yet, a mere 3 weeks after their arrival on the coast, the day dawned for the fishermen's first real trial at sea. As the first nets were cast, So, inland, the farmers sowed the seeds of their first harvest. It was a day of hard work, but jubilation. Certainly, for the fishermen, their first outing was successful. But then Somalia's sea is rich. The fishermen could actually see and weigh the value of their work. For the farmers, success was not so instant. They had to have faith. But still, their hopes were high that what they had ploughed and sown would soon enough flourish also to repay them for their trust.